morning again. Hope you're doing well. I wanted to share with you a few things I've been thinking about in my own life recently. In our office on the wall, we have this kind of oversized clock, kind of a decorative clock. But at one point it had batteries and it was working. And then one day I looked up and noticed that it had stopped working and it was just kind of stuck, the big hand and the little hand in the same position. And didn't think much of it. And then maybe a couple weeks after that, I looked up and Preston, who is a part of our team, had written on the glass of this clock, "What is time?" with a question mark. And I thought initially, funny, creative, whatever. But then I started thinking a little more about that over the last couple weeks and thought, that question, "What is time?" is really reflective of the world that we find ourselves in at the moment. Schedules are all subject to change. Events that get planned end up getting canceled or postponed. We've learned to function around time because time allows us to have a schedule and have a calendar and have some sort of rhythm to life. And the last few months with COVID and the ongoing challenges that presents, it's really disrupted our ability to have any sense of a calendar or schedule, or on this day I'll go and do this, or this is when school will start, or this is when I'll go back to church, or this is when I'll go back to the office. All those things are just kind of giant question marks for us. What's interesting, because there's a rather well-known passage in the Bible, comes out of James chapter 4. I'm sure you've heard it before, but in true confession, it's a passage I've heard many times before, probably even one that I've taught on before in the past. And you hear it, you read it, you think you understand it, and then something like COVID rolls into the world, and you begin to look at things like this passage that I'm going to share with you in a whole different context. Here's what it says in James chapter 4, verses 13 to 17. "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." You probably caught that in the middle there in verse 15. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. Prior to COVID, we probably would have read that passage and thought, okay, well, who really does that? I mean, that seems like kind of over-spiritualizing life. Like, if the Lord wills, I'll go to soccer practice or go to church or go to a friend's house, and it seems like maybe that's a little overkill. But COVID has sort of brought this passage to the surface, and we're now living in days where truly everything about our lives is subject to the Lord's will. Not that it wasn't before, but I think maybe we're a little more aware of that now. And so I want to encourage you today. It's frustrating to not be able to make plans. It's frustrating to not know when certain things in life will go back to how they maybe once were. Those things create frustration, they create angst, they create stress. And so I want to encourage you today to step into the truth of God's word and to believe that even though time and scheduling and all those things that keep us going and keep us functioning have been disrupted, God is still in control. And as we surrender our lives to him, which includes our schedules, which includes our plans, he gives us a peace that surpasses all understanding. Let that encourage your hearts today. The next thing that someone says, I don't know, or I'm not sure when that's going to happen, I'm not sure when the kids are going to go back to school, submit that to the truth that God is still in control. And as we surrender our plans to him, he guides us and leads us. Have a great Sunday.